UFC Fight Night, Josh Emmett versus Ilia Topuria. Welcome to another UFC prediction and analysis video by yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. He goes by Zan, I go by Harris as usual. Fight by fight breakdowns and analysis from that betting perspective specifically. We want to let you know which fights are worth the value, which fights to avoid, which underdog has the best shot at winning, and some parlay action towards the end of the video as well. Please be sure to hit the thumbs up on this video. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel here at Boxing MMA Picks. And most importantly, we are going to want to hear from you in the comments. For this UFC Fight Night, 14 fights overall. This is taking place in front of a live audience in Jacksonville. So that may provide a factor in some of these fights here. Busy prelim. We got 9 fights on the prelims. We got 5 fights on the main card. Let's get started right away with our prelims. Fight number 1, Cody Brundage versus Sedriques Dumas. Middleweight fight here. Brundage on a 2-fight losing streak. Last loss to Rodolfo Vieira back in April. Pretty decent in the stand-up. A lot of stick and move. A lot of level changes. Fakes. Mixes it up well. Has some solid power as well. He's going to mix in that striking with that wrestling because he is a wrestler. His entries are solid. He can land the takedowns, decent takedown defense to go along with it. I will say with Cody Brundage, cardio is a bit of a concern. I have seen him slow down. So that is definitely something to watch out for. Questionable IQ as well, especially after you watch his last fight. He chose to grapple with the grappler when he was definitely winning those striking advantages. Or striking exchanges, I should say. So got to watch out for that IQ as well. Sedriques Dumas lost to Josh Fremd back in March. Solid patient striking. He's composed, yet good power. 4 of his 7 wins via KO, TKO. He has active switch stands. I like his kicks specifically. It is a good weapon of his. Has an active jab as well. He also has a ground game. Good top control, good at holding position. His grappling, pretty good. Even pretty good in defensive guard situations. I've seen him use that grappling IQ to reverse position, to work his way back up. So definitely comfortable down there. Both of these guys can do a little bit of everything. Both of these guys have exposable red flags as well, if you ask me. We saw what Josh Fremd was able to do to Sedriques Dumas. Big shot that rocked him, immediate takedown, top control for pretty much the remainder of that round. I do think that Cody Brundage can implement a similar game plan. I think that he can have those moments that he needs to have with the striking, find those big shots, land those takedowns, and have effective, be effective on the ground as well. Dumas, will be a hard target to hit though. 7-inch reach advantage. I think we can see a better version of Dumas compared to his first fight. And he's capable of catching Cody Brundage, who, again, isn't really the most durable fighter. But I think skill set wise, Brundage does have a more effective, intentional skill set that will score rounds in his favor. So I'll say that Cody Brundage is going to be my pick, but I'll also say that I don't like these odds at all. I think they should be much closer to a pick 'em. Cody Brundage will be my pick, but careful with betting on this one.
Yeah, I'm with Harris, man. I think that this is a fight that you can't really feel confident on either side. We've seen Cody Brundage look bad in fights. We've seen him look pretty good in fights in certain spots. We've seen Sedriques Dumas's debut in the UFC. It was a really bad debut. It wasn't even against like Fremd is good, but Fremd is not that great, and Fremd made it look real easy in there. Fremd was a big guy in that fight. He had the size advantage. So in this fight, Dumas is going to be the bigger guy, 6'2" versus a 6-foot guy. He's going to have the striking advantage. He has some jiu-jitsu. He does have some takedowns, but I don't see his takedown ability getting Brundage to the mat. I think Brundage will be the better wrestler, the better grappler in this fight. Maybe not submission-wise, but the guy that's going to be able to dictate the fight. His striking is getting better. But I do think Dumas has more of a variety in the striking, so would give him the advantage. But a big thing in this fight, I think, is going to come down to the heart, man. Though Dumas, he hasn't really been tested, and you look at his record, a lot of his fights are first round. He went second round early in his career against fighters with losing records. But against guys with winning records, he hasn't been out of that first round. And when Fremd put on that pace, got him to that second round, he had nothing left. It looked like he quit in there. So there is a breaking point with this guy. So I think I'm going to go with Brundage, but I can't go with him at these odds. I can't put any money on it because Brundage is a guy that just takes one mistake with this guy and he can get caught. He can get hit with a strike. The fight can drastically change. He could be winning the fight. You feel confident. You're going to get that green check on your bet slip. And then you just get a drink in the kitchen. You come back 10 seconds later and Brundage has been tapped out or knocked out. So you can't really trust guys like that. But I do have to give Brundage the strength of schedule. Dumas hasn't really fought in guys, right? So, and the guy that he fought that was 6-0 was a straight up kickboxer that was a real high level kickboxer that didn't really have the grappling. So I'm gonna go with Cody Brundage here. Experience, tough fight, but I wouldn't bet here.
Second fight of our prelims, Tatsuro Taira versus Kleydson Rodrigues. Taira beat Jesus Aguilar back in February, remains undefeated 3-0 in the UFC now at this point. Still just 23 years old. Expect him to improve fight over fight, but he's already a very clean striker. A lot of fakes, a lot of feints. He's patient, fights from distance. He's pretty light on his feet, a lot of in and out movement as well. And sharp calf kicks, picks his shots really well. More on the methodical technical side of things as a striker. Has the ground IQ to go along with that. He's landed 5 takedowns in his 3 UFC fights. Effective level changes, effective takedown entries, effective top control, and overall 7 of his 13 wins are via submission, including his last 2 fights. Super composed, good IQ, definitely a good prospect to watch out for. But he's taking on stiff competition in Kleydson Rodrigues. Kleydson Rodrigues beat Shannon Ross back in February. Comfortable stand-up, sharp striking, good power, good jab, solid kicks, good fakes and feints. He's also patient on the feet. He can definitely be dynamic and explosive. And his technique is fairly clean as well. Also, he has landed 2 takedowns in 2 UFC fights. Wouldn't say that's a strong part of his style by any means, but does have some IQ there. Otherwise, expect him really to be that sort of Muay Thai stand-up guy that's going to want to keep it on the feet. Good fight, like I said. Rodrigues should be able to be the one sort of pushing the pressure, pushing the pace with the striking. I can't really say that one guy is better than the other with respect to striking. Rodrigues may be the more dangerous striker, that said. But I think Tatsuro Taira is going to be more than fine as far as striking goes. I think that he'll be able to hold his own. I think that, he's going to benefit greatly from his ground game, specifically being able to resort to that regularly or being able to resort to that when needed. We saw him use that in his last fight, for example, right? He immediately, I think he was, facing a little bit of pressure, immediately went for that takedown, immediately landed it, and then finished the fight. Shortly after that, I can see potentially a similar thing happening here if Kleydson Rodrigues is really pushing it on the feet. My pick is going to be Tatsuro Taira. I'll say it's a tough matchup. I'll say Rodrigues is a solid opponent, but I'm going to trust Taira as the high-level prospect to figure him out, use his full MMA game, and get the job done.
Yeah, this is a great fight. I can't believe the UFC has these guys, these up and comers, future top 5 guys fighting right now. I wouldn't be surprised if they fight a couple of years from now as well. It's a great fight, man. Kleydson Rodrigues, I think, is going to be the better striker in this fight. Taira's a decent striker. He can hold his own, as Harris indicated. I just think Rodrigues is going to be the more dangerous guy, the guy that can throw a shot that's unexpected, the guy that could literally knock him out, could hurt him, right? And on the ground, with the grappling, Tatsuro Taira is a phenom on the ground. He's good at getting the backs. He's good at getting takedowns. And he doesn't need the power. He techniques you, right? And that's one of the good things to see with this guy, because the strength is going to be on the Rodrigues side. I think he's going to be the stronger, bigger guy in the fight come fight night. So he's going to have a strength advantage. But Tatsuro doesn't really depend on overpowering you anyways to get you down. I wouldn't be surprised Rodrigues keeps it on the feet because he has great takedown defense. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes in trained. He has all the tools to win this fight. I wouldn't be surprised he wins here. I was going to go with the underdog. I was literally going to take the underdog here because there's a lot of value with this guy. And Vegas knows it because Tatsuro has been a favorite plus 500. I'm sorry, minus 500 and up versus everybody else against Rodrigues. What are the odds right now for this fight?
I see that it was as wide as minus 375. I'm seeing it now on ESPN at minus 260.
Okay, so that's going to go down because this guy, Vegas knows it. This is not going to be a wash for Tatsu. And you got to factor in Tatsu's 23. Sometimes these fighters, they learn early in their career, they get a loss and they come back even better. Max Holloway, all these guys, right? So Tatsu, if he can do the Khabib and go undefeated all the way, usually there's going to be a hiccup down in that road. And Rodrigues is the type of guy that can cause him problems. He has the style, he has the wrestling if he can to keep it on the feet. And if he keeps it on the feet, he's very dangerous. But I'm going to pick Tatsu for the channel. I'm not going to bet this fight. I usually would put the money on Tatsu because I think that he has something special in what he brings to the cage. Very super well-rounded guy. He's going to be a champion one day. That's a fact, right? So win or lose this fight, he's going to be a champion one day. I just think that I think he can get this to the mat. I think he can get it to the mat, get some get 2 rounds that way. It could be a boring fight. He maybe could get a submission in this fight, but I'm going to go Tatsu. But again, Rodrigues, I wouldn't be surprised if he wins this fight.
Right, third fight of our prelims, Jamall Emmers versus Jack Jenkins. Emmers unanimous decision win over Kusain Askabov back in February. Explosive, dynamic with his striking, yet he's pretty composed. Good long jab. He's going to take advantage of the reach advantage here of 6 inches, 3 inches in height as well. Pretty tall, pretty long for the division. Look for those switch kicks. Look for, dynamic things, jumping knees, calf kicks, head kicks. Again, just really good diversity to his striking. He also has a solid ground game. He's landed 8 takedowns in 5 UFC fights. He was a collegiate wrestler. He's a BJJ brown belt last time I checked. Great takedown defense, especially as well. So again, really, another one of these well-rounded fighters. Jack Jenkins, on the other hand, beat Don Shainis back in February. That was his debut. Switch stance on the feet, good movement, good calf kick, patient, controlled. Has pretty solid boxing, good usage of that jab, good sharp calf kick, good combinations. Consistently trying to be that fighter coming forward, but he doesn't really force the pressure by any means. Again, really, really composed in his attack. Also has a good ground game, good timing on the takedowns, good position improvements, good consistent ground and pound, good top control to go along with it. And cardio should not be an issue whatsoever for Jack Jenkins. Emmers is, going to be a dangerous opponent. I mean, we see his record there, 19-6. He can definitely lose fights, but again, he's going to be a dangerous opponent pretty much for anyone because he's shown good takedown defense. He's shown that he's able to keep fights on the feet, and he's pretty dangerous with the striking. Jack Jenkins has relied on takedowns both on his Dana White Contender Series fight and in his debut. So I sort of asked myself, what happens if he doesn't land them? I have to say, I wasn't really overly impressed with Jack Jenkins in his debut. I think especially he was fighting at home, if I'm not mistaken, but I thought he should have looked maybe a little bit more dominant. I don't know if the striking that I saw from him would actually work against Jamall Emmers. I don't know if he'll be able to land takedowns against Jamall Emmers. So that said, it doesn't really surprise me to see Jamall Emmers as the favorite here. I do think that Emmers is going to be able to dictate where the fight goes. I think that Emmers is going to be the more dynamic striker. And again, being able to take advantage of his height and his reach advantage. I'll say though, looking at this fight, I'm somebody who's going to analyze the fight before I look at the odds. I thought Jack Jenkins would be the favorite here, probably just based off hype in some ways, based on Jamall Emmers' record in some ways. So I was pretty surprised to see Jamall Emmers as sizable as a favorite as he is. So I don't like that, especially on picking the side of Jamall Emmers here. I'm going to pick him to get the job done. But again, similar comments as last time, those odds might be a little bit too steep. I'm not really liking minus 210 on the side of Jamall Emmers, but I do think that he will get it done.
Yeah, this could be a close fight. This could be a tough fight. This could be a back and forth situation. Starting with Jamall Emmers, I'll be honest, I was a big fan when he came into the Contender Series. And he was cruising, man. He was on cruise control. I had him in my parlay. He was beating Julian Arosa back in 2018. Cruising. He had the fight won already. I thought, this is over. I'm getting the green check. And one slip up, head kick, punches, knockout, fight's over. And that was Julian Arosa. So I can't really trust Emmers' chin because he has been knocked out. He has been finished. He also got finished by Thiago Moises. But again, that's back in 2016, so it is far. But I can't really trust his chin. But his chin held up in the Giga Chikadze fight, which is a good thing. His fighting style, though, this guy is well-rounded. He has wrestling. That's his background. That's what he started with in MMA. So it's going to be hard for Jenkins to get this to the mat. Because I think that Emmers is the better wrestler in this fight. And as far as grappling, as far as striking goes, I think that it's close because I'm going to slightly lean Emmers, but when it's slightly, that means either side can win the striking because it's close because Jenkins has those kicks. He has really good calf kicks, really good kicks in general, and he mixes it up really well. He has finished a couple fights with those kicks. And Emmers, if you watch him fight, he's able, like his leg's there. His leg is there to get kicked. And if Jenkins is able to succeed at the kicks, I'm not sure how much Emmers can take. If Emmers can take it for 3 rounds, great. But he's a human, right? So we don't know the damage the leg kicks are going to do on Emmers. The leg kicks are going to come. But when it comes to the hands, I like Emmers' hands. I like his reach in this fight. Close fight. I'm going to lean towards Emmers because when you look at Jenkins, who he's fought a bunch of bad fighters. He really has. And the guys that he's fought that probably had good records, aside from the guy in the UFC he fought, Sheamus, the guys that he fought pre-UFC, the guys that they fought are nobodies, right? So Jenkins, the level of competition is really, really low. And you look at Emmers, this guy's fought, I believe, Sanhagen. You can just go down his list before UFC. He's fought all these guys that some contenders and that are now contenders. He's fought them already. So he's been around the block. He's not old. I think he should be able to keep it on the feet and just show that there's a level to this. Again, the eye test says Jenkins looks really good. So I wouldn't be surprised Jenkins gets the leg kicks going, hurts Emmers, gets him out of their second, third round, or wins a decision. But I'm thinking that there's levels here, and Emmers has been fighting at such a higher level. Emmers hasn't reached that level of opposition yet. Jenkins hasn't reached that level of opposition yet. Emmers has won against that opposition. So I got to think he's above Jenkins right now. And I think he's going to get the win, man. He looked hungry in his last fight. He came really prepared, stuck to his game plan. I think he's going to listen to his coaches again here. He has all the tools. He should get the win, bar some type of knockout or some leg kick damage here. But I'm going to go with Emmers. I think there's levels here.
Fight number 4 of our prelims, Trevor Peek versus Chepe Mariscal. This is a pick'em lightweight fight. Trevor Peek beat Eric Gonzalez in his February debut, still undefeated, 8-0. All 8 of his wins are via KO, TKO. Almost all of them have been first round finishes at that. Very explosive, good power, high pressure, high pace, basically throwing as hard as he can with every shot. No real technique behind it either. He can land takedowns. He can be taken down. Ultimately, this is a fighter who's going to be, dangerous for as long as he's in it, whether finish or getting finished. Although 8-0, he's yet to be on the losing side of that. Chepe Mariscal, on the other hand, he's making his debut, 3-fight winning streak. He's a decent striker. He's going to mix it up pretty well. The calf kick is pretty solid from what I'm seeing. He's going to give his opponents different looks, from the types of strikes he's throwing to throwing combinations effectively to fighting from distance to having those explosive moments coming forward. Again, just mixing it up really well from the footage that I've seen from him. And just like Trevor Peek, he can be super explosive. He can go for broke as well. The way that I'm looking at this fight, skill-wise, pretty low level, right? This should be kind of a bar fight, and it's really going to be about who catches who first. Both guys have good power. Both guys have that explosiveness. Both guys go for broke. Both guys lack defensively. So again, really just about who catches who first. I'll say that Mariscal is probably able to do more MMA wise, in my opinion. I think he has the higher level of technique, but I don't think that's going to matter much in this fight. Ultimately, I am picking Trevor Peek to be that fighter that's going to land first because that's kind of his only plan of attack. Mariscal is also coming up from 145 up to 155. So I do expect Peek to have the physical advantages as well, including the strength. But this is just one of those fights you cannot be confident on either side that you're on. And that's why it's a pick 'em, coin flip type of fight. My coin is landing on Trevor Peek to get it done.
Yeah, this is a fight where I think Mariscal is the better fighter. I think this guy beat Sabatini. It was split decision, but he actually beat Sabatini. And there's another Yusuf Zalal. Was it Yusuf Zalal he beat as well? I believe so. He beat those guys. He lost to Joe Anderson Brito, but he has two big wins on his record. And he looked good in his LFA's last fight. He's fighting Trevor Peek, a guy that I'm not really high on, man. Skill wise, it's a type of style, man, like Tank Abbott type of style, old school, 1997 MMA. This guy just going out there, hands down, throwing hands, heavy power, knocking people out. But it works at the lower level. Obviously, the higher he goes up in the UFC, it's not going to work. Those guys usually get, especially in the lower divisions, they usually get sorted out pretty quickly as they keep marching up the rankings. Now he's fighting Mariscal, who's not in the rankings, obviously. So this is not that big step up. Mariscal's moving up in weight as well. Mariscal has been knocked out. Now the red flag on Peek's side is Peek has terrible cardio. In that second round, he's only really gone 2 rounds, like 1 or 2 rounds. Most of his fights are 1 round. But in that second round in most of his fights, he looks really tired because he's throwing everything in his shots. He literally doesn't really have the technique. His technique is throw hard. And if it hits you, it hurts. Even if you block it, it hurts. So his strategy has been working, but he's been fighting lower level guys. Close fight. I literally think it can go either way. But I'm going to go with Peek. I'm going to go with Trevor Peek here. It's his weight class. I also think that the power, he should be able to, if he lands 1 or 2 shots, it could be enough because Mariscal has been knocked out by guys that don't throw the power that Peek is throwing. So I'm going to go with Trevor Peek here. He might be losing the fight until the knockout, but I think Trevor Peek should eventually land, but you don't want to put a bet on a situation like that.
Fight number 5, Zhalgas Zhumagulov versus the newcomer Joshua Van. For Zhumagulov, split decision loss to Charles Johnson. That was back in November. 3 losses in a row now. For what it's worth, almost everyone had him winning that Charles Johnson fight. Few people had him winning that Jeff Molina fight that he also lost a split decision to. So he's someone that's going to be competitive, right? Decent fighter, decent stand-up, solid boxing, kickboxing, movement's good. He can switch stance. He has good cardio as well. And well-rounded, has that ground game, 1.36 takedowns per fight, specifically 3 takedowns in his last 2 fights. Forward pressure can be effective for him, but he is someone that fights off of that back foot a lot, especially as the fight progresses, and you're wondering if maybe that's what's costing him in these fights, kind of losing the eye test. Joshua Van, like I mentioned, UFC newcomer. He's coming from Fury FC. He's just 21 years old, also on a 5-fight winning streak, and he was the title holder in Fury FC. Solid striker from what I'm seeing. 5 of his 7 wins are via KO, TKO. So right away, you got to respect the power. He's going to pick his shots well. He's going to fight at range. The technique is pretty decent from what I've seen. The combinations are there. Has that sort of patient forward pressure stylistically. He is susceptible to pressure coming back his way, though. Not really an overwhelming striker by any means, but he does have a bit of a ground game, again, to round out his skill set. Few submission wins to his name. I have seen him work the clinch. I have seen him work takedowns as well. I've seen him work his way back up if he's taken down. But I would say he identifies more of a striker than anything else. Both fighters, again, one of those fights where both fighters can do a bit of everything. No glaring weakness in either of their game. Van is coming in, of course, as the young, exciting prospect. Zhumagulov coming in as the experienced veteran, over 20 professional fights. And I'm going to lean on the side of experience. for this fight. I think Zhalgas Zhumagulov, he needs a win. 3 losses in a row. I think he can be the striker with higher activity, even though Van may be the bigger power threat. I think that Zhalgas may also be able to work a takedown or two. Although, again, Van can also be one to land takedowns. I don't think we're really looking at a clear victory for either fighter. But I do anticipate Zhumagulov giving that extra effort by way of needing a win, taking Van into, deep, sort of unfamiliar waters compared to what he's used to, and sort of pulling out a win in that way. UFC might even feel like they owe him one. So Zhalgas Zhumagulov, I think he has a few more factors on his side that's going to make me lean toward him. But again, I'm going to sound like a broken record. Don't love these odds whatsoever. Zhumagulov has not been reliable, but I do think that he gets the job done here.
Yeah, this new guy, man, Joshua Van, he looks good, man. He's only 21 though. So it might be too soon, fighting a guy like a vet like Zhalgas, right? So that's a big thing in this fight you got to look at is as good as Van looks, he's still 21. He hasn't really fought in the best guys, or the competition level is not that great. He has been put in bad situations. He looks good in some of these fights. So I think as far the future goes, I think he could be someone that could be in the top 10, or will be in the top 10 eventually one day in the UFC. He's only 21, so he has a lot of time really to hone his skills. Zhalgas, I think it's his time, man. I think right now he's the better guy. He has a lot of experience. This guy, his record is 14-8. He should be 16-6. In my opinion, he beat Charles Johnson. In my opinion, he beat Jeff Molina. And those two guys are usually favorites when they fight. Those two guys are good level of opposition. So Joshua Van hasn't fought anyone at those guys' level. So I think this is gonna be a fight that Zhalgas should get done, man. He should be the better guy. He's fought the better guys, has the skills, the motivation, the experience. He's 34, so he's not old. So I think he gets this one done here against the younger newcomer.
Fight number 6 of our prelims, Tabatha Ricci versus Gillian Robertson. Ricci's on a 3-fight winning streak. She beat Jessica Penne back in March. She's introduced as a jiu-jitsu and a judo practitioner. She's pretty serviceable on the feet, I'd say. Not really the cleanest technique or the cleanest footwork, but she does have decent movement, decent combinations. I think her strength, striking-wise, is in her pace and her aggression. Not afraid to engage, not afraid to kind of create the offense proactively. Her strength overall is in her ground game, though. Grappler, she can land takedowns. She has that pressure style on the feet, as I mentioned, to create those takedown attempts. Good, smart positional control on top as well. Good submissions for sure to go along with that. Gillian Robertson beat Piera Rodrigues. That was her strawweight debut. That was back in April. 2-fight winning streak now. Making improvements overall, but making improvements specifically to her striking. She's oftentimes now being that fighter coming forward, trying to strike first more often, trying to be the aggressor more often. Her activity is better. Her striking defense is better. Still a bit hittable when she rushes in, when she forces that action. But ultimately, it's going to play more effectively into her style, which, similar to Ricci, is to look for those takedowns. She's going to chain wrestle. She's going to try to pull guard if she has to. We see the takedown numbers. They're pretty legitimate at 2.63 per at over 42% accuracy. And we know that her MO is that, she's a really high-level grappler. Good top control, good submission setups, BJJ black belt. She's a threat at all times when she's on the ground. Robertson, again, looks vastly improved over these last few fights. And this new version, this sort of Gillian 2.0, especially at strawweight, it's a version that I can see being a lot more competitive in the UFC. She's going to be the bigger fighter physically. Her striking might even be cleaner at this point compared to Tabatha Ricci. She can land the takedowns against Ricci's 50% takedown defense. But I do like Tabatha Ricci in this spot primarily because of the grappling. It's not to say that hers is any better or worse than Gillian Robertson's is, but instead it is to say that Gillian Robertson, she's been looking dangerous lately against fighters who she definitively has that ground game advantage over, right? Fighters that have definitively a worse ground game than she does. And I think that this is going to be a fight where her opponent can truly match her, if not even potentially be slightly ahead of her grappling wise. Ricci also has it to her advantage to have taken on a grappler stylistically in her last fight. You know, she wasn't afraid to implement her style. She wasn't concerned about her opponent's grappling efforts. She was just doing her thing. Sticky fight. I think Gillian has great value. I think Vegas recognizes that. But I am going to go with Tabatha Ricci. I think we'll see some of Gillian's old habits striking wise in this one. And I think that's going to allow Ricci to kind of implement her game, force the action, land the takedowns, and be comfortable enough with her grappling to not be threatened by what Gillian has to offer. Again, sticky fight, close fight. Gillian has been looking great. But I'm going to go Tabatha Ricci to get the job done here.
Okay, I'll be honest. I have this fight 50-50. Gillian Robertson, to me, is a much better fighter in this division than she was in that 125 division. In the 115 division, she seems to have, or in her last fight, it shows that she can go the 3 rounds, but she seems to have a size advantage. And if she can get this to the mat, it's almost a wash. Like she keeps it there the whole round if she wants it there. Sometimes she goes for submissions. Also, she'll go for position depending on who she's fighting. So she has the IQ in there as well. I think grappling wise, she's highly intelligent. Ricci, I think, is the better grappler overall because she does have the judo game, the wrestling game. She has the jiu-jitsu game as well. So I think she's the better grappler. Striking, I think Ricci's the better striker as well. But it's a close, I call it 50-50 because in this weight class, Gillian is a different fighter. She's not, when you look at all those fights, when you're studying her, it's not the same fighting when she's fighting at 115. So it's hard to gauge this fight because of that. Because when you see her fighting at 125, she's win some fights, she lose some fights, but at 115, she looks way better. Her wrestling, her grappling looks far better because she's fighting smaller people. Albeit it was just one fight, but she also tapped out. Was it Rose Namajunas in a grappling tournament? And that's another fighter that is a 115 pound. So at 115, she's pretty hard. She's pretty hard to beat. So I think this fight can go either way, but I gotta lean towards Ricci when you look at it from basically on paper. When you look at it, Ricci has the grappling advantage, the striking advantage. Like Harris said, she fought a fighter very similar to this in her last fight. She's not scared to go into the grappling with Gillian. When Gillian's on her back, she does have defense, but she does have offense off her back. But Tabatha, I don't think she's going to be in any trouble. So I think Tabatha should just dictate the fight where she wants it to be. And I think she could win in the grappling, staying on top. Also, I think she can win in the striking. So I'm going to go Tabatha Ricci here to win this fight.
Fight number 7 of our prelims. Let's take a look at Mateusz Rębecki versus Loik Radzhabov. Rębecki, unanimous decision win over Nick Fiore. That was back in January. High pressure fighter, a lot of head movement, a lot of forward movement, all aggression, all pace. He's definitely forcing the action, throwing those shots as he forces his way through. Relentless wrestler on top of that, throwing everything with full power to kind of get that wrestling going. Wants to get those takedowns right away, good at closing distance, good top control when he lands those takedowns, good ground and pound. He's a good chain wrestler as well. But naturally his style is going to wear on his gas tank. His style makes him very hittable, still dangerous throughout the fight, but a lot of red flags with Mateusz Rębecki. In some ways, you can say the same thing about Loik Radzhabov. He is on a 2-fight winning streak. He beat Esteban Ribovitz back in his March debut. His striking, I would say, is a bit cleaner, pretty sharp, puts a lot behind it as well, good power, expect forward pressure as well from him. I will say with Loik Radzhabov, he can get a bit reactive, sometimes not really the most active striker. Definitely tough, definitely willing to engage though. And again, similar fighters in that you can expect him to shoot down for takedowns right away. You can expect that smothering Dagestani top control from him, continuous body lock, clinch, chain wrestling, good scrambling. That's complete skill set is there on the mat. Like I said, 2 very similar fighters, similar styles, similar approaches. Somewhat similar builds too. Though Rębecki will definitely be the shorter, stockier fighter in this one. Both guys will swing big, so that's going to tell you that you can't be confident in either direction that you go in. But I do like Rębecki in this one because of the stylistic differences with the striking. It's not to say it's better, but I think he will force the pace. I think he'll force the action a bit more. I think he's going to be the one, Mateusz Rębecki, that's going to be more aggressive in this fight. But truly anyone's fight. It's going to be about who's tougher, who can implement their takedowns better. But I will be siding with the favorite, Mateusz Rębecki. I think that aggression on the feet can work in his favor.
Yeah, I think this is a good fight, man. I think it's one of those fights that you got two guys that are going to be in the top 7, top 10 eventually, if they're not already. Rębecki looks really good, good grappling, relentless pressure with that grappling. His striking needs some work, but he does have power in his hands, and he's always improving each fight with his striking. Loik has wrestling as well. Loik's the cleaner striker. They both have a strong strength of schedule. I give Rębecki the toughness. I give Rębecki the cardio advantage as well. So I wouldn't be surprised Rębecki wins this fight by getting, say, the first round, third round type of situation here. But I'm gonna go with Loik Radzhabov here because this guy has fought tough guys. His fight against in PFL, I watched this fight against Alex Martinez. He has a split decision loss. He won that fight. That was a clear win. So he should be 18-3. And 18-3 going through PFL is a good thing because in the PFL they have that playoff format. So you're always fighting. You might get an easy match here, you might get an easy match there, but you're guaranteed to have hard fights because you have to fight all the guys. So in PFL, it's a tough format to keep a good record, to be like 27-1, because in that format you're fighting the best guys. It's a tournament type of style thing. So Loik going through PFL, he got some losses, but these are against great fighters: Rosh Manfield, Alex Martinez, Atan Schultz, Rashid Magomedov. So these are really, really tough guys in that tournament format. But I do think Loik, I think he's ready for this fight, man. I think this is a fight that he could win. He has the height advantage, the reach advantage. Him being the underdog, he usually shines in these spots. So I'm going to go with Loik Radzhabov here to get a win.
Fight number 8 of our prelims, Randy Brown versus Wellington Turman. Randy Brown lost to Jack Della Maddalena back in February. Long, tall switch stance fighter. Look for him to use that length, long front kicks, long jab. Pretty dynamic as well as a striker. Mixes it up really well. And he can still be explosive. Good quick combinations, good all-around movement. 11 of his 16 wins have been via finish, 5 KO, TKOs, 6 KO, TKO, 5 submissions. So good at finding those finishes. Submission-wise, good specifically at finding those guillotines, that rear naked choke opportunities as well. So look for that to be a threat. Stylistically, on the feet, he is methodical, good IQ, stays composed, good movement, good timing. His only red flag, in my opinion, is his durability. 5 losses, 4 of them via finish. So let's watch out for that. Wellington Turman had a unanimous decision loss to Andre Petroski back in November. Heavy hands, hard jab, good power, good usage of kicks. He's going to lack some striking speed, but he can definitely clip you. Good clinch, solid takedown ability, good wrestling ability with his frame. He's going to try to chain those takedown attempts together. He's going to stay on your back, and he won't rush the takedown either, right? That said, doesn't really have the best takedown defense, just 50%. Gave up 8 takedowns in his last fight, just to speak to that. But he is a good grappler. Almost half of his wins are via submission. Brown, in my opinion, should get this one done pretty comfortably. Granted, he doesn't get clipped. I think Turman has that legitimate puncher's chance. Randy Brown kind of styles a bit too much at times, kind of gets too comfortable, and that could cost him. Otherwise, Randy Brown should be a lot more capable with the striking, better movement, better striking speed, 3 inches in height, 6 inches in reach. Turman may not have the best opportunities to land those takedowns. I mean, he doesn't land too many of them anyway, less than 2 takedowns per. just over 20% accuracy. So, shouldn't really be too much of a threat for Randy Brown. He should be able to keep it on the feet. And again, I think Randy Brown takes it relatively easily as long as he stays focused. Will he stay focused? We're going to have to find out. But Randy Brown is going to be my pick. I think I pick Randy Brown in this situation probably 8 times out of 10 at least.
Yeah, this is a fight. Turman's going down in weight, man. This is Randy Brown's weight class. Turman, we don't know how he's gonna handle that cut. That's a big cut from the division he was in. So I like Randy Brown, man. I think Randy Brown improved a lot in the grappling, striking. I think he's gonna be a cleaner guy, and I think cardio wise, he's gonna have the far better cardio. Turman's cutting weight, so yeah, I do like Randy Brown, and the size difference won't be a big thing with Turman coming down because Randy Brown's 6'3". Randy Brown's gonna be Randy Brown's a big welterweight. He can easily go to middleweight. So Turman's not gonna have a size advantage here as well. So I gotta go with Randy Brown. More tools. I think he gets it done.
9th fight, final fight of our prelims. Neil Magny versus Phil Rowe. Welterweight fight here for Neil Magny. Lost to Gilbert Burns. That was back in January. He's well-rounded. He can do a bit of everything. Long, rangy striker, long jab, light on his feet. He's going to use his kicks effectively as well to keep range. Decent overall ground game. So I wouldn't really say it's dominant in any way. He can land takedowns. Statistically, the number's pretty decent, almost 2.5 per. Respectable takedown defense, despite just 57% statistically there. Can't forget to mention, of course, he does have great cardio, great, constant activity in his game as well. Phil Rowe beat Nico Price back in December. He's on a 3-fight winning streak now. Similar to Magny, he's also a tall, long fighter for the division, but different styles. A lot of movement, though he is relaxed in the stand-up. He does keep a good range. He does have a good long jab as well. Long, straight combinations. He fights from the outside. Those kicks are definitely in there as well. Just 52% takedown defense in his own right, but the ground game is something that he is actively trying to work to improve. Good top game should it get there. He can land a takedown here and there. Also a BJJ brown belt, and even competes in grappling matches. So again, something that he's trying to level out, round out as part of his skill set, but not really a ground threat by any means, in my opinion. I think it's a good close fight. I think we're looking at 2 guys with similar physical attributes, of course. What makes this fight interesting is that you imagine that Neil Magny is the better tactician, the better overall MMA fighter, more of a veteran as well, higher IQ, better cardio. A lot of reasons to like Neil Magny in this one. I do expect Phil Rowe to be more dynamic, more explosive, have that punching power advantage. His last 3 wins in a row have been via KO, TKO, all via punches. Magny hasn't had a TKO win since 2018. To that point, though, Magny has been durable. He has been KO'd just twice amongst his 10 losses. So it's not to say Phil Rowe is going to run all over him in any way. I think that Magny is the safer, smarter pick here, but I'm going to go with Phil Rowe. I feel like he can win that striking battle. I feel like Magny's striking is not really impressing me, especially lately. And I don't think that either guy is going to be able to dominate on the ground. So I think that Phil Rowe can catch him in those key moments, win a close one on the judges' scorecard. I'm just not really liking the way Neil Magny's looking, although, again, he should be the smarter pick in this one. I think Phil Rowe is going to have that moment, audience behind him, kind of have that highlight type of victory, or barely squeeze one out. But I'm going to go with the underdog, Phil Rowe.
Yeah, I think this fight's going to be a fight where it's going to be one side or the other. I'm not sure who's going to do it, but I think it's going to be a one-sided fight. Either Phil Rowe wins a one-sided fight, like a beatdown, or Magny wins a beatdown. I don't think this fight's going to be competitive. I just think one guy is going to be able to do a lot more damage than the other guy, just based on styles, right? Because we got a grappler, we got striker. Magny also has striking. When you look at Rowe is the striker in this fight because his boxing is really, really sharp, really accurate. He has legit boxing. Like he could definitely hold his own in a boxing ring. And he's definitely the better boxer than Neil Magny. But when you look at striking in UFC, it's a full arsenal, right? Neil Magny has good movement, has good awareness in that cage. Neil Magny has kicks as well. So that's one thing that Rowe doesn't really in the striking. He doesn't have better kicks than Neil Magny. So I think that Neil Magny can use. I mean, yeah, Neil Magny can use those kicks. Eventually, I think he's going to get this to the mat. I think he's going to utilize that grappling. If it stays on the feet, I think Phil Rowe wins this fight pretty handedly. So I think Magny at this point, he needs a win. He needs another win. I think he's going to come out here, focus on getting that win, and that means taking this to the ground and using that cardio. He has the better gas tank as well. So I'm going to go Neil Magny using that grappling advantage he has.
Let's get our main card started. We have 5 fights on the main card. Fight number 1 is Brendan Allen versus Bruno Silva. Allen coming in with 4 wins in a row now. He beat Andre Muniz back in February. Well-rounded with his overall MMA game. He's looked really improved over this winning streak that he's on. Still just 27 years old. Still getting better fight over fight. Getting closer to that athletic prime. And looks like it's starting to show. The striking has looked a lot more technically sound, diverse with his striking, good kicks, mixes them up well, clean, crisp hands at this point as well. Good combinations, good forward pressure, and again, solid skill set, good grappling. I would say that's probably his strongest suit. Decent wrestling to go along with it, although he lands just over 1 takedown per fight. He's not an overwhelming wrestler by any means. But if he does get you down, good on top, good mix of grappling with the ground and pound, really good at sort of keeping that top control as well. Taking on Bruno Silva, who is introduced as a striker, on the other hand. Silva beat Brad Tavares back in April. Expect him to put that forward pressure on his opponents, likes to control center, almost stalk his opponents down. Really dynamic with his striking. He's looking to land that big, powerful, strike. He swings big. Hands aren't always the cleanest, but the kicks are pretty crisp. Has good takedowns, although he hasn't really shown it in the UFC to this point. Just 18% takedown accuracy, just 2 takedowns landed in 6 UFC fights. Outside of the UFC, I have seen good, takedowns from him, good active ground and pound. He's a BJJ black belt as well, although he was submitted in his last loss. Again, essentially a striker at this level, at this point. Interesting fight. I think Brendan Allen should be the more complete MMA fighter here. I think Allen is the cleaner, more technical striker. I think Allen is a lot more intentional with his ground game as well. So he kind of checks the boxes, and you think that Brendan Allen should get it done, which is why we see him as the favorite. Silva, I think, is the bigger power threat, and I think that's going to be meaningful for this fight. Brendan Allen really likes to play stand-up. Not an active wrestler, not adamant about taking the fight to the mat. That tells me that there's going to be a lot of striking opportunities both ways. And we've seen Brendan Allen get hurt before. Silva has that power and that explosiveness to hurt Allen. And I actually think that's what we're going to end up seeing, right? I think we're more likely to see a Silva finish than we are to see an Allen submission, for example, right? So I like Silva to get it done. I think Allen's going to be looking good until Silva catches him. And at that moment, Silva's going to end the fight more than likely by finish. I'm going with the underdog Bruno Silva to get it done.
Okay, for me, man, this is just like the previous fight where like Brendan Allen, if he does what he's supposed to do, he should get this done, man. This guy has a good cardio tank. He can go the 3 rounds. Silva slows down. He slows down as the fight goes on. And but Silva, like Harris said, he's the more dangerous guy. This guy, he finishes guys compared to Allen, who maybe submits you, right? He's Silva has that power, and he's looking to finish you at every minute of that fight. He doesn't want to go to the decision. Allen's more comfortable going to decision or getting some type of submission. His striking's coming along, though. Brendan Allen's striking's getting a lot better, so I wouldn't be surprised he catches him with a kick, leads to a ground battle, gets a submission that way. It's a tough fight because, like Harris said, Silva is the more dangerous guy, but for me, Gerald Mearshart beat this guy bad, man. Like, he beat him pretty bad. And like Gerald Mearshart beating you, like I have to look more into why I'm picking you, right? just like Miradov. When Miradov fights again, I gotta really like think why I'm picking this guy, because this guy lost to Gerald Meerschaert. You know what I'm saying? And they got finished, right? So I'm gonna go with Brendan Allen because I can't trust Bruno Silva here, man. I can't trust this guy at all. He's one of those guys, really good and then really bad. So I can't really trust him. Brendan Allen to me is more consistent in what he does. But it is a fight that he can literally get knocked out in the first round. So if he doesn't get a takedown, he gets discouraged. But I think he's improving. I think the time in the UFC, he's figuring things out. He's training better. He's definitely improving each fight. So I think he's going to use the full game here, get this to the mat. If not, I think his striking is not as good, it's not as dangerous as Silva, but it is a point getter. And I think at some point he can use that to mix in the takedown. So I'm going to go Brendan Allen here, mix it up, win a decision.
Second fight of the main card, David Onama versus Gabriel Santos. Onama had that majority decision loss to Nate Landwehr. That was back in August. Switch stance fighter, solid striking IQ, good technique, good, quick, sharp striking, good jab especially, good 1-2s as well. He can be explosive. He's got good power, good patience though, not really forcing the action by any means. Onama also has 3 rounds worth of cardio, so he can be dangerous in round 3 just as much as he can be in round 1. And Onama has pretty good wrestling, though he lands just 1 takedown per fight. We have seen moments of chain wrestling in his fights. We've seen that overall ability to scramble, get back up. If he's taken down, he has pretty solid grappling as well. Gabriel Santos had a split decision loss to Lerone Murphy back in March. Look for switch stance out of him. Look for a lot of fakes, feints, level changes. Look for a lot of calf kicks out of him, especially. Really likes that stalking pressure style. Patient in his setups, though, although he's closing distance, although he's kind of backing you up. Can be explosive. He's got good power. He's got a strong calf kick, as I mentioned. His punches are pretty clean. The pressure is continuous. The pace is continuous. And he mixes it up really well. He can also land takedowns. Wouldn't call it an active part of his game, but he can land them and he can scramble pretty well. He can work his way back up pretty well if he's taken down. Good close fight here. The way that I'm looking at it, both guys I think are highly skilled. I think both guys are tough. I think both guys, of course, both guys were in close fights against good competition in their last respective fights. I do like Santos here as the fight progresses. I trust Santos's cardio more than I trust Onama's. I think while they're fresh, I think they both can and will have moments. Like I said, both guys are tough. Both guys can take a shot. The pace should be continuous from these fighters. But I think at some point, Santos will be the one that's going to be showing more for the scorecard. So I'm seeing like a late round 2 heading into round 3. And I think that part of it is going to tip the fight in his favor. It also wouldn't surprise me if either guy knocks out the other, but Gabriel Santos is going to be my pick. Again, I trust him more as this fight progresses. Both of these guys have shown me toughness. So I think this one more than likely goes to decision and Gabriel Santos gets his hand raised.
Yeah, this fight's gonna be action packed, right? When you look at the video footage of these two fighters, one thing that sticks out is compared to each other, Onama's really green, right? He's all athleticism, and as you move up the ranks, as you move up, as I said before, eventually in the UFC you can't win on athleticism unless you're you can't really. You gotta have something else, right? And in the lower ranks, the athleticism gets you there, allows you to beat a lot of people. But once you get to the UFC, you got to add some technique to that, some type of technique. And Santos is the more technical guy in this fight. He has everything. He has wrestling, he has grappling, he has jiu-jitsu. Onama has good wrestling as well. Onama's gonna be the bigger guy, the stronger guy. What we've seen is cardio doesn't really last long when the fight has a high pace. Santos keeps going. He tries to break you down. I think he's going to bring that approach here. Again, as I said at the beginning, Onama is a very green fighter, uses his athleticism. And I think Santos, who dealt with an athletic guy in Lerone Murphy, people thought Santos won that fight. It was a really, really close fight. Lerone Murphy is the real deal, and Santos brought it to him, made it look close. It was a split decision. I think Lerone Murphy's far better than David Onama right now. So I'm going to go with the Brazilian Gabriel Santos.
Third fight of the main card, Austin Lane versus Justin Tafa. Of course, we got to have a heavyweight fight. On the main card, Justin Tafa, 2-fight winning streak. He beat Parker Porter. One of those one-dimensional heavyweights, all things considered. 6-3, 6 wins, all 6 wins via KO, TKO. 4 of them are in round one, including his last fight. So unsurprisingly, he has big power. Sneaky short hook, specifically. Capable of that head kick. Pretty good as a counterpuncher as well. Very flat-footed, doesn't really offer much else otherwise, although I will say he does have some ground IQ. But again, that will not matter in this fight. Austin Lane is a UFC newcomer on a 6-fight winning streak. Tall, long, pretty quick as a heavyweight as well with active movement. Look for him to use his reach to his full advantage. He's going to fight at range, long jabs, long kicks, especially in this fight. 6 inches in reach, 6 inches in height as well. Very much a striker. Doesn't really have the best takedown defense. Not afraid to go at it with his opponents, however, not afraid to sort of brawl, which is something that we see from lower level fighters. Interestingly enough, Austin Lane was supposed to fight Junior Tafa in February before Austin Lane withdrew. He's now fighting the older brother 4 months later. Despite the win streak, I don't expect Lane to be coming in as a real prospect here. Pretty low-level fighter, in my opinion. Justin Tafa, one-dimensional heavyweight, not necessarily the highest level fighter in his own right. But Tafa is the better striker, if you ask me. I think he's more capable. I think he's more competent. I can especially see a huge counterpunch opportunity for him that should be able to put Austin Lane out. I think Austin Lane does have a shot. I've seen especially decent cardio out of Austin Lane. So this could be one of those fights he survives the storm and he has his way in the later parts of the fight. But at the end of the day, it is a heavyweight fight. Either fighter can catch either fighter. It's more than likely that Tafa finishes him in round one than it is that this goes to the decision, for example. So I think that Justin Tafa is going to be my pick. I think he gets the job done, but typical heavyweight beware. Do not bet on this fight.
Yeah, Harris hit all the points, man. Austin Lane has that cardio advantage. Justin Tafa is going to be the better striker. So Austin Lane, if he can get this to the mat, it's going to help him out a lot. But the cardio is a big thing. When you look at Justin Tafa, he's only he hasn't been to he's been to the third round twice, and he lost both of those fights. So aside from that, it's been a lot of first round finishes. This guy could be an issue with the cardio, right? So it could be a situation where you have the right guy, but after the first round, he doesn't really have much left. And I think this could be a fight like that. Austin Lane is a bad fighter, though. Like he's bad. He's a terrible fighter, but he's a big guy, and these guys hit hard. You don't have to have technique when the other guy's tired. If he can hang out, get into the second, third round, the odds of him winning really, really rise. So for me, this is a tough fight. But again, these are heavyweights. A lot of heavyweight fights like these, a lot of heavyweight fights like this end in the first round. That being said, I got to go Justin Tafa, right? So I think Justin Tafa should have enough here. I don't think it's gonna be a high pace. I think gonna be striking a lot in this fight. Justin Tafa is a kickboxer. He should win this fight in the first round, but if he gets out of that first round, I can see Austin Lane having a higher pace and winning the next two. So it is a tough fight, but I'm going to go with Justin Tafa.
Co-main event of the evening, Amanda Ribas versus Macy Barber, high stakes women's flyweight fight here. Ribas had that unanimous decision win over Viviane Araújo back in March. She's introduced as a judo practitioner, judo black belt, Muay Thai style in her stand-up, good output, good activity, a lot of movement from her, kind of herky-jerky movement. Her technique is not really the cleanest, but she does land. She's tough. She has a good clinch. She can land takedowns as well at just over 2 per fight at almost 42% accuracy. Good positioning when she's on top. And she has really good technical BJJ as well. She can find those submissions. You got to be sharp at all times when you're fighting Amanda Ribas. And 52% takedown accuracy is what I meant, not 42%. Macy Barber, on the other hand, split decision win over Andrea Lee back in March. Arguably gifted a decision there. That's 4 wins in a row now for her. Her stand-up is decent. She's patient. She's going to look for her shots. Her striking technique is looking cleaner. consistent output, good power for the division, good clinch against the cage, physically strong, and she's going to use that for dirty boxing, elbows, things like that. Solid on the ground, just over a takedown per fight, pretty active with the ground and pound. She did give up 5 takedowns in her last fight, so we do know that she is susceptible defensively, but still just 25 years old, still improving fight over fight. This is an interesting fight to me. Very hard to predict. It's a coin flip type of fight in a lot of ways. I think that both fighters have advantages. Ribas's striking style is more awkward, but it is active. I think that can give Barber some issues. On the flip side, I think Barber's style, striking wise, is more direct. And I think that's going to allow her to be the more effective striker in this fight. Ribas does have, has that effective judo, has the takedowns. Barber has just 47% takedown defense. Ribas on the flip side has 88% takedown defense. So that tells you that Ribas may be able to dictate where this fight goes. Barber, definitely the stronger wrestler, that said, but Ribas, better grappler. Now, Ribas is the favorite, of course, because of her analytical advantages, but I'm actually going to go with the underdog here. I'm going to go with Maycee Barber. I think having the crowd, the American crowd, will work to her favor. I think that Ribas doesn't really, have the credit of beating someone who can strike. She did beat Araujo, but Araujo is known for gassing out. Barber will be able to keep coming forward in that third round, keep Ribas on her back foot, and I think she's going to be able to score points in the clinch. This fight should go to decision, and I think even in a close fight, I think the scorecards will favor Maycee Barber. I think she's sort of one of UFC's darlings, and they're going to do what they can to protect her. So I think she has that X factor working for her, and I think that is going to make me lean toward Barber in what should be a close fight.
Yeah, this is it's a good fight, man. And I'll be honest, man, I'm not a Maycee Barber fan. I was a Maycee Barber fan when she came into the UFC. She said a lot of great things, right? But then I seen her performances. The Andrea Lee fight, that was a close fight. That's questionable. The Miranda Maverick fight, very, very questionable. Those could be 2 losses on her record, and she should be, in my opinion, 10 wins and 4 losses. And she's fighting a jiu-jitsu ace that I think is going to have the overall grappling advantage. I think even the wrestling, I don't think Maycee's going to want to go for takedowns here. And if she does, I think Ribas is going to sprawl, or I think Ribas is going to counter that and get in a good position if they go to the mat. If Maycee attempts the takedowns, I think she's not going to get them. And I think that's going to allow Ribas to reverse, either get her back, standing, maybe drag her to the mat, take the back. That's one thing I like about this fight, is that both fighters really have strong points. When I look at Maycee, she has that thing I say a lot about, the dog in them. She has that fight, and that's something especially in the women division. When you see that, you don't want to bet against that, just because even if someone's not as good as the other in the women's divisions, the dog can make you win the fight, right? So that dog in you, and Maycee has that. But I do think she will have the size, Maycee, but I think she's more technical. I think she's getting a lot better with her striking. Maycee's striking is good. Is probably the better striker. But she's not really improving her striking. It's the same thing. She's really good when she can hold you against the cage and let off elbows. And I don't think Ribas is going to let her do that. I think if they get to the cage, Ribas is going to get her back against the cage, maybe even get a takedown. I think eventually Ribas is going to take the back, right? And I like Ribas in this spot, man. I think she proved me wrong in that Araujo fight. She really looked good in that fight. So I have to go with the fighter that I think is better right now, and I think that's Amanda Ribas.
All right, let's go on to our main event of the evening. Josh Emmett versus Ilia Topuria. High stakes featherweight fight here. Emmett lost to Yair Rodrigues for the interim title. That was back in February. Fairly straightforward with his striking, but he is a good striker, good power, good movement as well. He likes to come forward. He wants to close distance. He's going to look for that big shot, look for big combinations as well. He's aggressive, but he's also very patient. He doesn't force that action at all. Underrated punching speed as well is something that I noticed from him. Really tough, always willing to engage, takes one to give one when needed, and he has a wrestling background, right? College wrestler, has that in him, not an active part of his game, but he does have that IQ in his back pocket. Ilia Topuria beat Bryce Mitchell back in December. Still undefeated, 13-0, 5-0 in the UFC now. He can do it all. Good boxing, good long jab, good level changes, powerful overhand right, really good IQ on the combinations, cuts the ring off really well, good constant pressure. He technically is a wrestling and a ground specialist. That said, he's going to shoot for takedowns, Greco-Roman background, fight controlling top position, good deep submission attempts as well. Has that jujitsu to go along with it. Really one of these new age fighters, right? Still just 26 years old, improving fight over fight, has the entire package. But I won't make my prediction part of it too long. I think we're looking at two very dangerous, high level featherweights here. Striking wise, I think they're both similar in their forward pressure, in their big power, in their big combinations. I think the key stat for this fight is Josh Emmett's 58% takedown defense, and against Topuria's 92%, if that part is necessary. But I think that for Topuria to definitively get the win here, he's going to have to use his wrestling. Takedowns are a more active part of Topuria's game. And I think the wrestling is better on the Topuria side of things. Emmett can definitely catch Topuria. Emmett, an Emmett win wouldn't surprise me by any means. I mean, it's a main event. Either fighter can win. But I like Topuria pretty much all the way on this one. More well-versed, just as dangerous, should be able to resort to the wrestling. Where it can get sticky is that Josh Emmett has been in these 5-round settings before, whereas Topuria hasn't really done so, not at this level. So that's where it can get sticky, but I like Ilia Topuria to get it done.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm going Topuria all day, but Emmett's one of those guys, right? Like you can't really. He has 3 losses, right? He's old, but one shot, right? Can really even in the year was looking good, and then one shot kind of turned the situation around. He has that one shot power that can knock these guys out. And as good as Topuria is in the Bryce Mitchell fight, he was getting hit, right? And imagine if Emmett can get one of those shots. So Emmett is a super, super live dog. He's a live dog against any fighter, I think, in the world. And if you're getting odds like this, wow. Is that serious? Is that live? Plus 270?
It's on ESPN. Let's see maybe let's take a look at another source.
Hold on. Topuria is minus what? Wow. What is it at? Let's see.
Yep.
No way. That's wow. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. I don't think Yer was even that big of a favorite, right? So, and this is a fight where Emmett has wrestling. He can keep it on the feet, and on the feet again, this guy can knock anybody out. Michael Johnson, one of the greatest strikers in UFC. Emmett was losing, and then he found that spot. Topuria got hurt by that British guy. Forgot his name. I forgot his name, but you guys know Hebert. Was it Hebert? That guy, Hebert guy. Anyways, that guy had Topuria hurt. Topuria finished them later in the fight, but if Emmett can land those shots, it's going to be lights out, right? So it's a close fight, but I'm going to go with Ilia Topuria because he's more well-rounded. He's the younger guy. Emmett, the big thing for me, the biggest red flag on Emmett is this guy's killing himself to make this weight. At every weigh-in, this guy looks like the worst. Like Conor McGregor type thing when he was making featherweight. Emmett looks bad, and Topuria is going to be in there ready to go. So I'm going to go Ilia Topuria, younger guy. Striking's good as well. As long as he stays out of that big shot, he should outpoint him or even get a finish.
All right, let's take a deeper look at the numbers in this one. Of course, starting with some underdogs, and then we'll take a look at some parlay action as well. Underdogs, Kleydson Rodrigues is an underdog. Jack Jenkins, Trevor Peak fight is a pick'em, so we'll consider either fighter there to be the underdog. Gillian Robertson is the underdog. Lewis Radzhabov is an underdog. Wellington Turman, Austin Lane, Joshua Van, Phil Rowe, Bruno Silva, David Onama, Sedriques Dumas, Macy Barber, and Josh Emmett.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with Trevor Peak. Is that a pick'em?
Yep, that's a pick'em. So we'll consider either fighter to be the underdog there.
Okay, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with Trevor Peak.
All right, Trevor Peak in that pick'em. spot. My underdog pick, again, a bit more of that gut feel. I'm gonna go with Phil Rowe to get a job there, to get a job done there. And in terms of favorites or parlay action, which fighters are you considering?
All right, so I'm gonna go with one sec. I'm gonna go with what's his name? Randy Brown. I'm gonna go with Gabriel Santos. And I'm gonna end it off with Ilia Topuria.
All right, so those three fights will be a 2.71. That means that $100 will return a total of 271 for our bigger bettors. $250 will return a total of 679. For my parlays, there are two matching picks here. Randy Brown is a matching pick. Ilia Topuria is a matching pick. And otherwise, I'm looking at Tatsuro, Taira, and I am also looking at Jamall Emmers. I think skill set wise, he should get the job done there. That'll be 4 fights for 3.85. That means that $100 will return $384. For our bigger bettors, $250 will return $962. So let's sign off on that note. This has been UFC Fight Night. Josh Emmett versus Ilia Topuria, full card prediction video presented by yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. Of course, make sure you hit the thumbs up on this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel here at Boxing MMA Picks. And most importantly, we want to hear from you in the comments. How do you feel about our picks? What are your picks? What additional insights are you looking for? Let that all be known in the comments below. Otherwise, officially signing off, UFC Fight Night, Josh Emmett versus Ilia Topuria, full card prediction video presented by yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. He goes by Zan, I go by Harris, and in our usual fashion, let's get this money.
Let's get it.
Hey.